What's up, you guys? Jalen Hawk here, as always, bringing weekly anime manga reviews, and I'm here with another video. So, I haven't uploaded in a few days, so I thought maybe I should probably come back. To be entirely honest, I'm probably gonna make a separate video talking about this, but I haven't had a whole lot of motivation to upload. Not because I hate doing YouTube or anything like that. It's just like a combination of things, like me losing my channel, the previous one, and also me starting college this week, or earlier in this week. I just haven't had the time, and I like whenever I want to upload, like I have like like basic notes down and stuff for like the things I want to do, but I just can't really get the motivation to do it because I'm like just exhausted. So we're here now. All right, so we're here. I'm gonna try to be a little bit more consistent. My bad for kind of taking a week off and all that stuff. So let's talk about the most recent chapter of Tokyo Ghoul. Tokyo Ghoul Re chapter 177, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's 177. This chapter was actually a pretty big deal. It was the fight between Kaneki and Dragon Rize, and seemingly the conclusion, the climax, and probably the final fight in the Tokyo Ghoul story, at least revolving around Kaneki, and Kaneki coming to the big decision that he actually needed to put an end to Rize and take her life. So yeah, I personally really did like that chapter. I liked it a lot, but I did see a handful, actually not even a handful, it was like a pretty solid margin of people did not like the chapter. And some of, like, I kind of looked at their complaints, like some things that they said, like people were saying stuff like, oh yeah, it's rushed, blah, 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 which is kind of like, at this point, you might as well just get over that, because we got the announcement last week that Tokyo Ghoul Re was going to be ending in 3 chapters, so of course it's going to be rushed. Like all the plot points that still need to be addressed, like the stuff with Hide, why V wants to get rid of him, probably like the Sunlit Garden, all that crap, it's not going to be addressed. I'll probably make separate videos talking about what could have potentially happened, what the explanation could have been, but we're gonna have to wait until Tokyo Ghoul's over until, like, maybe we get an explanation or not. And there could even be light novels or side manga and stuff like that that could answer all those questions. So yeah, now another one of the complaints I have seen is people saying that Kaneki's decision to kill Rize does not make a whole lot of sense, as well as Kaneki's whole entire speech to Furuta. I believe it was last chapter or the chapter before that, where Furuta ended up dying, and he kind of explained like, oh, even though all these bad things happened in my life, I would do it over again, like with Rize and all this stuff. I'd let all that happen to me again. And a lot of people are kind of like, oh, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't feel like Kaneki, blah, 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 all this other stuff. And allow me to explain. Mainly, in particular, the Rize Kaneki thing, because I feel like that's where a lot of people kind of get this weird misinterpretation on Kaneki's feelings towards Rize, because this has been set up since the beginning of Tokyo Ghoul, from part 1, and even in part 2, it's been stated multiple times. Now, I wrote down brief notes on my note card, so mind, let me explain everything. So, if you read volume 12 of Tokyo Ghoul, volume 12. I was scared that was gonna be volume 11. If you read volume 12 of Tokyo Ghoul Part 1, Kaneki gets to meet Rize once again. After Yomo comes into Kano's lab and takes Rize and then takes her into like that storage unit, and Kaneki sees her and she's in her starved out state. Kaneki wanted to go see Rize so he can talk to her and kind of explain the whole entire situation and just kind of get closure by talking to her. Obviously, he wasn't able to do so because Rize wasn't in the right state of mind. She was starved out. Yomo was giving her like the just amount where she would be able to still live and not starve to death, but not to the point where she'd be able to get strong enough and break out of her restraints and escape, because that could be bad. But Kaneki says then that despite all the things that have happened to him so far, he cannot bring himself to hate Rize. And that's why Kaneki was crying in the most recent chapter when he actually had to encounter Rize. Now, if you kind of look back at every single conversation that Kaneki's had with Rize, whether it was like legitimate, like, he talks to her straight up, like in the first chapter of the manga, or when he tries to talk to her but she's starved out, or even within his own mind, like during the Kaneki torture in the flashback, or him talking to Rize in his mind a few chapters ago, chapter 158 and 159, Kaneki makes it very obvious that he does not have any ill feelings towards Rize. He does not hate her. He does not despise her or anything of the sort. He actually does still care about her. Now, not on the lines of like, oh yeah, I want to make out with you or I want to date you or anything like that. I don't even think he really loves her in any type of way. I think it's just more on the lines of, you're kind of the reason why I ended up like this, and you're very similar to me in a lot of different ways. Because one thing that a lot of people seem to kind of forget about Rize, because Rize is kind of always depicted by Aogiri and all these other people as this really strong ghoul who's very savage, who wanted to kind of like live this free lifestyle and no one ever could really restrain her or control her. Rize is a victim. Even though she's not really the best individual, even though she's not really the nicest individual, she is still a victim in this entire situation. Just like Kaneki, she was used in order to make Dragon. She constantly had her freedom taken away from her, even though that was the thing that she always longed for. It's kind of sad. In some ways, obviously Rize's not as tragic as someone like Eto, right? Because I made that video about Eto like a while back. I'm probably going to redo that, but I made a video a while back talking about Eto and how her life is kind of like a tragedy. Rize's life is pretty bad as well, and I kind of feel like that's kind of the case when it comes to a lot of characters in TG. And Kaneki kind of makes that very obvious in the most recent chapter where he's kind of talking about tragedies and how everyone is, like, every protagonist kind of kind of lives through a tragedy within their own story. And that's just kind of how it plays out. And I guess you kind of say that Rize kind of lives through a tragedy when she's like the main character of her own story, like her own life, in that regard. Because like Rize, right, she was born into the Washu family. She is, she's a full-fledged ghoul. She's not even like part human in any type of way. And because of that, the Washu kind of discarded her. They did not see her as anything of the sort of like necessary besides being a breeder. And she had the very strong possibility that she was most likely going to be raped by her father or relative. I don't remember if Tsunayoshi is her father or if he's like a close relative. I believe he's her father. Like Rize is like one of his children along with Furuta. But you have where she uses Furuta to escape, right? Furuta said that he wanted to let her out, and then he was kind of like mad because she was like living this really free lifestyle, not really like waiting for him when he wanted to be with her. And you have where Rize, every single time she was free, she was restrained in some type of way. She gets steel beams dropped on her by Furuta, and then she's taken in by Dr. Kano, right? After that, she gets taken again by Yomo and is put into like the storage unit. Obviously, Yomo didn't have any ill feelings towards her when he was doing this. It was just more like for the betterment of like the 20th ward because Rize was very dangerous. Sachi comes back after the events of Yoshimura getting captured by Aogiri Tree and all that stuff. And you have where he takes her. He's watching for a period of time. Seemingly, he says, "Run, Rize." Arima took her at some point in time and ended up handing her back to V. V got a hold of Rize, forced her to become Dragon. Well, first off, took her, and according to Rize within Kaneki's mind, put her in mini little coffins, the Ogai squad, and pretty much essentially ended up becoming one of the nucleuses for Dragon. Rize was barely ever free throughout her life, and whenever she had like a small taste of freedom, taken away from her, and it's kind of sad. And I feel like one thing that a lot of people kind of forget too is if you look back at chapter 177, right? Rize is in pretty much a very similar pose, if not the same pose that she was in when you first see her once again when Dr. Kano had her back when he was using her Kakaho in order to make artificial half-ghouls. Obviously, he made a lot of failed ones, and then he made some successful ones like Kurna and Nashiro, but she's in the same pose, like kind of like as if she's like restricted by chains, and it's just sad. Because Kaneki sees this aspect of Rize that no one else sees. He's like the only person in the entire world of TG, from what it looks like, that actually understands the crap that Rize's gone through. And another thing that I feel like people kind of need to realize, because there are people that have been saying, like, why doesn't Kaneki save her? He should have done that. That would be more in his character. That's not necessarily true. Because if you go back to chapter 158 and 159, right, you have where Kaneki has this whole entire conversation with Rize in his head, where Rize kind of makes him come to the realization and kind of get a new viewing on life, and the fact that Kaneki, for the longest time, has kind of had this external, not external, introvert. No. Yeah, an external type of personality. More on the lines of the fact that he likes to blame things on other people so he doesn't have to take the blame on himself. The fact that it's easier to push the blame on someone else, right? So you're not stressed out and blaming on yourself, and it's not your fault. He did that in the case with like Shirazu, where he was talking to Ure, and he was like, "Oh, you want to blame me for not showing up quick enough? It's your fault. Weren't you the one fighting beside him?" Like stuff like that, or him like taking on the whole entire thing of like, "Oh, I want to become stronger, so to protect all of you guys, that's the reason why I'm doing everything." When in reality, according to Toka, that was like, no, it's because you're afraid to be alone, you're scared to be alone, you don't want to like, that's the reason why you're fighting, trying to get stronger. And then Kaneki ends up admitting that. So Kaneki kind of like getting his mindset crushed by Rize and kind of developing the whole entire thing by like, oh, I need to fight for the people that I care about, the people that I actually love, like legitimately, and I also need to kind of take responsibility for for my actions, for everything that's happened so far. This is why I'm fighting. And Kaneki kind of realizes that, yeah, even though Rize is a victim in this situation, even though her life is pretty tragic, she's too dangerous to live. He can't have Rize running around because she can be captured by someone else and have her, you know, her freedom restricted from her, and someone can try to use her as a weapon like they did here with Dragon. Not to mention the fact that Rize is a binge eater, so if someone tries to kind of go and confront her, Rize has shown that she's very hostile. She would just attack him, and if you have someone as powerful as Rize at this current state trying to fight like any like normal ghoul, she would like kill them. She would like it would be like that. Only someone like of Kaneki's caliber would be able to really take her on and possibly win. Another thing that I've seen people say as well is like, because I feel like people need to realize that Rize, she wasn't really all there, you know? Rize, she's in the same state as Kaneki was when he was dragon. Like, obviously it looks different here because she's more in the Oviduct. She's not the actual, like, giant dragon, freaking Kagune mass type of thing. But Kaneki, he wasn't able to control himself when he was in that state. He wasn't even conscious. Like, he was, like, more in his, like, inner psyche and stuff. Whereas Rize here, it's kind of the same thing. Like, even though Kaneki's putting her down, it's almost like putting down, like, a dog or something. She's not really there. Like, that's why she's not talking. That's why she looks different. Her genes are altered. It's still the same Rize that we all know and love. It's not a clone. It, like, I don't know. It's just, like, the whole situation is just kind of sad. I want to make sure that I got everything else, though. Another thing that I want to bring up, though, is Rize kind of gives a whole entire speech to Kaneki as well about him, like, his whole entire mindset of what he was trying to do as a One-Eyed King, because Kaneki, what he was going to do is like, oh, yeah, I'm going to enforce peace, you know, upon the whole entire world, and she's like, oh, so you're going to be a dictator. And this kind of, I know I keep on sounding, like, very repetitive, but it goes along the lines of, because, you know, each character in Tokyo Ghoul, right, has, like, kind of like a certain sub-theme, like a certain word that you can kind of classify their entire arc as. With Tokyo, it would be like beauty and kind of like growing to accept yourself. And then with Rize, it's like freedom. With Hide, it's like loyalty. With Amon, it's like justice and stuff like that. Rize, right, you have where her calling Kaneki a dictator is kind of indicative of like her whole entire mindset. The fact that she wants to be free, the fact that she just kind of wants to live her life the way how she sees fit, regardless of the way how the world views her. And you have where Kaneki was, as the One-Eyed King, was trying to kind of like enforce this type of version of peace that people wouldn't necessarily accept. And Rize kind of calls him out for that, which I thought was really cool. But besides that, that's kind of all I have for this video. If you guys want any other videos for me talk about the recent chapter, I was thinking about maybe talking about the whole entire Kaneki having 4 different RC types thing. I didn't even notice that until people in my comment section pointed it out to me, and I looked back and it's like, oh shit, Kaneki has 4 different RC types, and he's fighting like the same way as some of his other friends. Like, you see him like do like the ribbon thing with Tsukiyama, and then like Nishio's like serpent tail and stuff like that. So yeah, I might make a video on that. I was also thinking about dropping a video about Amon in the next few days, but it's kind of up to you. What kind of video you guys want to see in the future, whether it's about TG or some other anime, and give me your guys' thoughts down below. So anyways, guys, that's all I have for this video. Thank you for watching. Remember to comment, subscribe as always, guys. I love you all. Jim Hawk, signing out, guys.